everybody, welcome to our next video blog. I've always been a big fan of Monet, and I particularly love this painting of this little house overlooking the sea. Today, as we're talking about the kingdom of God, the parable Jesus uses to describe it is about fishing on that sea, so I thought this was a good backdrop. I want to read it to you. It comes to us from the book of Matthew, and it says this: "Once again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was let down into the sea and caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, the fishermen pulled it up on shore. Then they sat down and collected the good fish in baskets, but threw the bad fish away. This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous, and throw them into the blazing furnace where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Yesterday, as we talked about the kingdom of God, we talked about the fact that so many in Jesus' audience would have been farmers. And so Jesus used the images of planting seeds and harvesting fields. Well, a whole slew of them would also probably have been fishermen and would understand these images of fishing and nets. So let's take a look at this parable that Jesus gives us of the kingdom of God. The first piece is obviously the net. Nets back in those days were long, wide things where one side was laced with bobbers and the other side with sinkers. And so what they do is they let that net down out the back of the boat and then troll in a big circle in the sea around where they thought the school of fish was. And one half of the net, the one side would bob and the other side would sink to the bottom, and they'd form this cage of a net. They'd pull ropes that would pull the bottom together and then haul it all up into the boat, or up onto the shore in this case. Then hopefully your net would be full of all kinds of fish. So this is the way that Jesus is trying to explain to them the kingdom of God. But we've asked for years what this net represents. I don't know why we've missed the fact that it is the kingdom of God, but I've heard people say the net is preachers or the gospel itself or any of a number of things. But this net represents, as it says, the kingdom of God. Today, we would probably call that the church. Let's take a look at the next piece, which is the lake. It's the sea. Throughout Jesus' time, it was very common to use this image of the sea, of the lake, as an image of chaos and of churning and of danger and of the world. So Jesus uses this very image to describe the world around us. Do you think the world around us could be described as change and chaos and churning? Take a look around. There's a lot going on in our world today that makes us feel like that's a pretty apt metaphor for our world. The sin of racism runs rampant and is constantly ignored until there is violence. And then that violence gets us to see it once again, brings racism back into the spotlight for a little while. And violence against people like George Floyd begets more violence, and the violence continues in this world that's churning and changing and chaotic. It's a violent world, and we are called to bring both peace and justice into it. That's our calling. But it fits that Jesus would use this lake, this sea, to be a symbol of the chaotic, churning world. Next, of course, is the fish. And the fish represent the people of the world. That's pretty clear. But it's interesting. The net doesn't go in and just catch fish. The net catches all kinds of fish. Jesus doesn't say things without a purpose. The kingdom of God, for us, the church, is to catch and bring in all kinds of fish, all kinds of people. This parable alone should be enough for the church to recognize that we need to be reaching out and including people from all races, all cultures, all classes, all everythings. That is our call as the kingdom of God, is to reach out and bring in and include all kinds of fish, all kinds of different people. Our churches are not the kingdom of God if they are not bringing in all kinds of fish. Now, this is vastly different than just welcoming them. We're pretty good at welcoming people at our church, but this is a lot more than welcoming people. This is about including them. Let's take a look at what that means. Welcoming somebody means to be prepared for whoever decides to walk in your door. But including them means to go and actively seek those different than us. Welcoming means helping people to not feel like an outsider. Including means making people actually insiders in our church. Welcoming means putting out snacks and drinks and chatting with new people. And we do that pretty well at Libertyville Covenant Church. But including people means putting out an invitation to lead and to bring their new ideas and then to act on those. How far and wide is your net cast at your church? Do you have a mix? A pretty even mix of different races and different cultures and classes and genders and etc. So the last image that's used here by Jesus is this image of judgment. Our reluctance to include people in the church usually is really more about our comfort and our control than anything else, but we usually couch it in terms of judgment. Well, these people have to turn from their sin. They have to change their behavior. They have to make right choices, or we just can't include them in our church. We can welcome them to our church, but we can't include them. But the last half of this parable, more than that, is all about the fact that it is God's place to judge, not ours. Yesterday, it was weeds and wheat. Today, it's different kinds of fish. But in both parables, the image is that our job is to collect all of it together into the church. And then it's God's job at the end to go ahead and sort it out. How long is it going to take us as Christian people, as the kingdom of God, to realize that judgment belongs to God, not to us? How long will, as is famously quoted, Sunday morning be the most racially segregated hour of the week? How long will the church keep joining the world in talking a whole lot about inclusion while doing nothing to make it actually happen? The kingdom of God, the church, is like a net that catches all kinds of fish, no matter what, and brings them to God. Folks, we need to catch a lot more than just lutefisk. We need to catch all the fish. So we're going to be talking about that in the next year as we look forward to what this year has for us as a church. And I hope your church will do the same. So a couple of quick questions to ponder, because it's important that we think about this, not just hear it and go, oh, nice. Questions to ponder. Which groups are missing at your church today? Think about your church. Think about it. Go through your directory. Take a look around when people get back together again and ask, what groups are missing in our church? And don't keep yourself limited to your favorite ones. Well, we don't have enough seniors, enough wisdom in our church. We don't have enough young people and kids. We don't have enough of this. Think about all the groups. Which ones are missing in your church? Second question, why are they missing? What are the pieces in your church systems that are causing these people not to come, and if they do come, to not stay? Final question, what are you doing to actively recruit and include these missing groups? Good questions for us to ponder. I encourage you to bring those questions or your answers to them to your leadership, not in terms of critique, not in terms of judgment or calling them bad at what they're doing, but rather in terms of vision for the future. How could we together do this exciting thing of being the kingdom of God here on earth? All right. I hope you'll consider that, ponder that, think about that. If you have questions about this or want to argue with it, please email me or call me or text me or invite me out for a meal when things get mealy again, whatever it may be. I want to talk to you about this. All right. But in the meantime, join us this Sunday at 9:30 a.m. at libcov.org for our streaming worship service. It's going to be a good summer. We'll see you later.